Oops. Hi, everybody. I'm here with Faith. All right, now just bear with us while we get this little camera thing going. All right, I think we're good. Are we both in there? We're both in there. Oh, I got to get myself together. You guys look like you're like ready.
Ready.
That was quick.
Can we check you?
Yes. Can you hear me all right? Am I doing okay?
You sound good.
Awesome. Yay. And I still don't wear headphones, even though Theo told me to.
You don't have to do anything you don't want
What
to
do I
do.
guess? So you have to wear the headphones. I'm like, really? I don't want to.
They wouldn't go with your outfit.
Right. I would need fancy headphones.
That's right.
Sparkly
Outrageous.
ones. Yeah.
All the
crazy.
radio people say that you need headphones just because someone else told them that you need headphones, so it's like how they feel smart. It's like your uncle at Thanksgiving. He's like, it's the tryptophan that makes you sleepy in the turkey. That's like the same. Like, oh, I know.
Is it not the tryptophan? I think it's just that you ate way more than you should.
Yeah.
And your body's like, oh,
And then you had
can
a
we
bunch
take
of
a
wine.
nap?
I think you just wear headphones to ignore people. See, if you have headphones on, you look too
You
important
can
to
be
interrupt.
like, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Got headphones on.
Exactly.
All right, I think Faith should move it, though. I can't really see you. Can we
You want me
move
to
you
pull
in
this
a
back?
little
Move
bit?
you this
Yeah, move that out a little bit. The weird little guy legs. All right, that looks pretty
better?
good. Yes, I think so. I'm gonna go up just a tiny bit. Okay, here we are. Okay, whenever you tell me, I will be ready.
Cool.
And my stomach's making noises. Stop, stomach.
If I walk out in the middle of this and never come back, it's because somebody else showed up. So.
All right, thanks for
It's not
warning
your
us.
conversation.
I'm like, oh, I've had enough of them. I cannot listen to it anymore. And Rich will just take over. I gotcha. I'm on it.
All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Hi, this is Mich Hancock, and you are listening to Mishmash, a place where I get to talk to the weird, wacky, wonderful people of this world, people I adore and want to know more about. Today, my guest is Faith Varwig. She is the principal of Faith Group, a company that at its core helps clients develop a new vision for the future and the tools required to help them meet their agenda in security, information technology, compliance programs, and I better do that again. A compliance program. La, 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 la. Let's try that again. Do you want me to say Faith Group LLC?
Faith Group is
Just
fine.
Faith Group is good? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
We only had to do the LLC because when we searched the word Faith Group, and then we
You
went back and
have-
tried to buy it, somebody, those search engines that are sniffing
Right.
for that, said, oh, yeah, you can buy it now for $3,000.
Ah,
So,
doesn't it drive you crazy?
Yes.
I had that happen to a guy I was talking to the other day, and he was saying the same thing. He's like, well, it's $2,500. I'm like, don't. $2,500, you can do a lot of marketing with that you
Yeah.
don't need to buy the...
you don't need to have to do
Nah. And now you can get like .net, .biz, Okay, I will say it better this time.
Okay, ready?
Hi, this is Mich Hancock, and you are listening to Mishmash, a place where I get to talk to the weird, wacky, wonderful people of this world, people I adore and want to know more about. Today, my guest is Faith Varwig. She is the principal of Faith Group, a company that at its core helps clients develop a new vision for the future and the tools required to help them meet their agenda in security, information technology, compliance programs, and more. Welcome, Faith.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. So this is, I want you to explain what your company does, because I don't think there's a lot of companies that really do what you do, correct?
How many minutes do we have?
I have
No.
185 minutes just for this question.
Okay. Well, I mean, from a bottom line standpoint, we are technology and security consultants. And I think we all know that we live with technology in our environment every day.
Right.
I mean, you don't get up in the morning without grabbing your smartphone and checking it and getting up to date on news and information and what your friends have been doing. And that kind of technology, just bleeds through every part of our life, business, private. And so from a corporate standpoint, we work a lot with our clients on what's the new, latest, greatest technology coming up in the industry. How do we take that technology and improve their business processes by making them more efficient or customer friendly? And then, what are the technical changes and resources required to actually deploy that new technology. So that's the piece on technology.
Right.
The second side is the security side of our business. And I started in security back in the 80s in airport security. And the unfortunate factor is that every day we need more and more security systems and issues. Our culture has driven us to this constant, monitoring and making sure people are safe and secure. And from a technology standpoint, we do a lot of design related to access control systems, CCTV systems, like the smart CCTV cameras here in the city of St. Louis. Our company's working on that project.
Oh, great. Okay.
And we do a tremendous amount of work in aviation, and I think everybody knows how important security is in aviation, and that's at the core of most of the work that we've done from a security standpoint. So it's really exciting work every day when I wake up. I have no idea what the day is going to bring, because if there was an incident someplace in the world or somebody launched a new technology, it changes my business.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, and I can't even imagine trying to keep up on it. I can't even imagine, because I feel like, it seems like every time you go look at anything, it's like, oh, here, there's this terrible virus, and this is going on, and that, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's like everybody's trying to work against us, attack us a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our clients, cybersecurity probably really started to emerge as a core issue with most of my clients about 5 years ago.
Right.
And now it's just at the top. Every time we go talk to a client, their first question is, what are we going to do about cybersecurity? How do we stay safe? What are the safeguards? How do we train our people? A lot of the cybersecurity issues have nothing to, or have very little to do with the technology and a lot to do with people.
Oh, I bet, because they clicked on that thing they weren't supposed to click on.
Yeah, or
right?
they put that thing in their computer they weren't supposed to do.
Right,
so,
right.
That all of those things are things that we need to work on in terms of with our clients. So that's part of our compliance and policy side of our house, where we not only work on the technology aspects, but we help our clients teach their people how to do things better. So that's a core component, because if you just give somebody, it's just like when I get a new iPhone or cell phone, if somebody doesn't help me understand like what the buttons are that I really need to push, I use like 5 functions, right? So I just paid 100% and I use 5% of the functionality of that system. So it's the same with everybody. If you don't have a robust training program for your staff and people, then you make these huge investments and they really don't get used to their full capacity for that client.
I think that's awesome that you train the people, because I see it happen often where, in fact, the other day I got on Facebook, someone was like, hi, if you get a message from this person, don't accept their friend request. They are spamming everyone. And I was like, something's weird about that. And sure enough, I looked it up, and it's a thing. Everybody's getting these messages, and I was like, okay, so don't believe this. If you guys see it, I'll put it out on 100th Monkey Media just to let everybody know this is a weird thing going on right now. But I think some people just don't see through it. I mean, you see people that still post things on their Facebook page, probably not the youngins, but the older people will post things where it's like, please do this and that and the other thing, or else Facebook is going to steal all my personal information. Have you seen these things?
Yeah, I mean, those kind of things. I think there's 2 gaps from a technology standard. The older generation and the brand new younger generation who can't not stop clicking, right?
Gotcha.
I mean, they click on anything because Lord knows if they miss one thing, one item, they're going to be out of tune. So they're very hard to train, and older people just don't know any better. The guys in the middle that have been using it for a few years are much more comfortable with it. I mean, if an email comes into my office or my inbox or an advertisement, if I don't personally know that person, where it came from, and that the regards line matches that individual, it goes right over to my technology guys for them to take a look at it and see if the virus is included. But, it's just getting worse. And to some extent, when that kind of thing happens, it's actually good for my business. I hate to say that.
Well,
but,
sure, of course
there's
it is.
more and more of a need for people like our company to come in and help our clients work through those issues.
So do you currently work with clients in the airline industry? And what kind of clients do you guys work with?
Well, so about 70% of our workload is aviation based. So we worked predominantly for airport authorities around the country, we're at about 40 airports today,
Wow.
including like Atlanta, which is the busiest airport in the world by passenger capacity.
Is it really?
It is.
I didn't know that. See,
Almost,
I thought it would have been New York or Chicago.
No. It's
Interesting.
Atlanta and then Chicago actually after that, I believe.
Really?
But we work at a lot of the larger airports. LA, San Francisco is a fantastic client of ours. And then we work at a lot of smaller airports down in Little Rock. We've done a lot of work in Memphis. You know, it doesn't make any difference what size they are.
Mm-hmm.
They all have the same problems. They just scale up, right? So if you're dealing with 2 to 5 million passengers, you have the exact same needs and issues which drive you towards, you know, better passenger services and being able to deploy new technologies to make your staff more efficient, as you do if you have hundreds of thousands of staff.
Right.
It's just a matter of scale and money.
If you
which
have
always comes
2 to
into it.
5 million passengers, though, is that per
Year.
year?
Yeah, and it's a small airport, like a Category 2 size
Gotcha.
airport, and there are plenty of those airports, and they're great clients. But there are a lot of large airports that we work for too, and there's a lot of complexities with large airports. And again, every day that we work at that airport, if an incident happens, I'll give you a good example. One of our airport clients is Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
I think many people know there was an active shooter in Fort Lauderdale not that many months ago, and we are
Right.
doing security work for that airport. And overnight, the focus of security and the things that we are going to do for that airport completely changed.
Wow.
Because the reality had hit them.
Right.
You know, I think a lot of people live in this lull of, it's not really going to happen to me, it's going to happen to somebody else.
Yeah.
And then they kind of procrastinate, you know, waiting for, you know, something to go on, and then they respond. And
Right.
what we really try to do is get our clients to get in front of the issues, say, look, this isn't an if, but it's a when.
Mm-hmm.
And we really need to think about that, and how does that look on your, you know, roadmap in terms of your planning for technology programs, your fiscal spending, your capital budgets, and how do we weave that all together?
Right, right. And if you're going to be dealing with that many people in a year, and as you said, even a smaller airport is going to have 2 to 5 million people come through it in a year. Out of the 2 to 5 million, there's probably someone you really wish wasn't in your airport.
Absolutely.
Right. We are going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with Faith. It goes by so fast, I know. But thank you. That was really interesting. I love it. I love that you train people, because I've thought of that before. Like, it's security, but then you have people that click on things that they shouldn't click on.
Right.
You
exactly. No, it's you know, training and being there from the start to the finish on the overall programs is really, really important.
Well, and also being on the lookout. Like, I've gotten things, I'm sure you've seen them before, where it's like bankofamerica@gmail.com. And you're like, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. Bank of America would not be a
is not using
gmail.com.
their Gmail account to tell me something.
That's
You know.
right.
Bye, Sam.
Bye.
See you later.
All right. Very nice to meet you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, are you ready to continue?
I am.
We're ready to continue, Rich, when you are. And we are back with Faith. So, how long have you owned this company?
I started Faith Group in 2004.
Okay.
So it's been a few years now that
Yes.
that we've been in business, and it's been. You know, I started in my basement, like all good companies, right? We start in our
Right.
basement,
Well,
garages,
yes.
living rooms,
You gotta
someplace
start
like
somewhere.
that. Got to start somewhere. That's right. And it was a sad day when we moved out of the basement, but also a happy day because that you know, sparked really the growth. We've been voted one of the fastest growing companies in St. Louis for the last couple of years.
Congratulations
And,
on that.
Thank you. And we have offices in Minneapolis, Philadelphia, Gaithersburg, and Atlanta.
Wow.
And we actually do quite a bit of work on the West Coast, but most of the work we do for our West Coast clients, we actually are resident actually at their facility. So it's, you know, it's a mixed bag.
Gotcha.
But it's a coast-to-coast business. We've done some work in Canada and some work in the Middle East, actually.
Wow.
Which is interesting for a woman-owned business,
Yeah.
as you can well imagine.
That is, talk about that. I mean, that's really interesting.
Well, it you know, it's a little bit different when you're working in countries that don't necessarily respect and represent women like they are in the United States.
Yeah.
So I kept asking one of our business partners over there, do they actually know we're a woman-owned business? I mean, you know.
Yeah. Like, do they know this?
Do they know this?
Right.
But you know, I think from my perspective, it was a wonderful cultural experience to be able to, you know, travel to the Middle East and deal with those different cultures and get a better understanding of how that works on a day-to-day basis. You know, in business, you don't feel it as much, but you can see it around you when you're there,
Right.
you know, in the hotels and restaurants and just, you know, culturally how people interact and respond with each other. So it's quite different, and I think it gives you that real respect when you come back to the United States for what we have today and what we have here versus, you know, what other people have to live with on a day in, day out basis. So,
was there anything traveling over there that you were really surprised by, or that maybe you just had no idea, like, this is very interesting, like we as Americans have no idea about?
So I would say, I would sum that up to say, and this is going to come from a Midwestern farmer girl
Okay.
perspective. Okay, so I have to qualify that first. But in the Middle East, I was in Qatar, so we know exactly where I was at when I'm talking about this. But there are, the people that I was working with there are a melting pot of the world. So maybe people in New York get this every day. But it's not every day that I go to work and I sit next to a guy from Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, the Philippines, another guy from Pakistan, somebody born in Jordan, somebody from London, and they all cohabitate and work together. My struggle was understanding the languages, you know, the accents. Everybody was
Right.
trying to speak English, but that was obviously an interesting version from my part on that. But we don't get that. We certainly don't get it here in Missouri,
We
right?
don't.
And we really don't get it in many meetings that I'm at around the country. I don't sit in very many meetings where I feel like I'm at the United Nations, right? And I think that, you know, partially that's a struggle with us still maturing as a country to look at how business is done elsewhere and the impacts that other cultures have, positive impacts on business and process.
Well, and I think, and once you get to understand another culture, then you understand a lot more about the people and why they think the way they do or behave. You know what I mean? I mean, I think it's really important to, I would so love there to be some kind of a course that everybody had to take to learn about different religions, different cultures. I mean, I think it just gives you I lived a long time ago. I went to school in Spain for a year, and just being in that whole other, and immersed in that whole other culture, because back when I was there, I was not on Facebook. You
Right.
know, there was no, to make a phone call home was going to take, you know, a lot of money and a whole effort to make that happen. So you were really immersed in that culture. And just being in that whole other culture, I learned so much. And I feel like it gave me quite a bit of a more worldly view, just having that experience.
There is no doubt to that. And I will say that having the benefit of being able to travel in my business and going to places like Kuala Lumpur and to Israel and to the Middle East and London and lots of other places, when my kids were little, I insisted that we do a lot of international travel. And I think it really helped form their opinion about what the rest of the world has to offer.
Right.
I mean, there's not a lot of 7 and 10-year-olds that are riding elephants in the rainforest in Thailand because
how
I
cool
wanted
is
them
that?
to have that education to understand, what is this culture like? What does it feel like to live here? How are the people? And, you know, you really find at the core, people are the same everywhere you go.
Yeah, I really do believe that.
At the core are the same, but it's their culture and their wealth of the nation and philosophy and religion that really drive them in different directions than maybe we have here in the United States. But, you know, I've been fortunate. I've traveled to a lot of countries, and you know, it's very interesting, and there's a whole lot more on my travel list. So even though I travel all week for business, my husband and family think I'm nuts, but we love to do big vacations and, You know, I'm the first one out the door.
You're working at the other traveling, so
that's right.
That's different.
I never get to see anything when I go to those
Yeah,
cities.
it's like, there's another hotel.
Right. Yeah, literally, some days I fly in and never leave the airport.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? I have my meeting there and fly right back out. Try to explain to the TSA agent why you never pass through security.
Oh, interesting. Right. But you would know. You were like, but I'm into the security thing, and let me explain what's going on, Mr.
Exactly. Yeah, they're government. They don't listen.
So what was the decision? Where did you decide I'm starting my own company?
Well, I'd worked 20 years for a previous company here in St. Louis, and, you know, at some point you get up in the mirror and you look in it and go, you know, I can do this on my own. I built a division within that company that was aviation focused and turned it into a national business. And, you know, one day we just decided that probably it was time for me to go. And it was probably the best decision I ever made. It's been a wild ride, and it'll continue to be a wild ride. But I get up every morning, love the job I do. I love the people that work with me. We're very much, we call ourselves a family unit, right? It's not a corporation. It's a family of people that get together. And even to that extent, we've got family members. I'm kind of the Herb Kelleher of consulting, where Herb Kelleher, who was the owner of Southwest Airlines, his philosophy was, you know, if I hire you and you're a good worker, your mother's probably a good worker, and your son's probably a good worker,
right? And
your cousin's probably a good worker, right? And you'll know who those people are. So, you know, we've actually got several people working in the company that are friends or relatives or cousins or kids from out of, you know, coming into college that we give internships to that are, you know, part of the family. And, you know, for the most part, it works out really well. And it helps us spread, you know, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, that idea that being an entrepreneur, you have to also help your community and your friends and your family, not just be a business.
I love it. That's a great philosophy. That says a lot about a company too. And I bet people stay with you for a long time.
Yeah, we have a pretty good retention rate, and it's hard to get people. It makes it a little harder to recruit, because we're a little tougher on, you know, what we're looking for.
Will you fit in with us?
Will you fit in with us? And that's a big question.
They have to fit in with you in order for it to all work.
That's right. And we're not at a size right now that we have to just work with anybody and we have to take people. You know, we're, 60 people, 65 people. So we're still small enough that we can kind of be choosy about the people we hire and bring into the family. Because we all, at the end of the day, have to work together and we have to like each other. And that delivers a good client experience. That's
awesome. That says a lot, Faith. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. That's very cool. I love that. I think that's a thing us women do that we like.
I think, well, that's because we're nurturing.
Yeah, we got the nurturing mom thing.
Yeah,
and we feel this, you know, I'm always like, I want my people to be happy.
Right. No,
Are you happy? Are you good?
Well, to that extent, on Saturday, I had the Faith Group summer party down at my house in Hillsboro. So, had everybody over.
Hillsboro?
I'm in Hillsboro.
Me too.
No way.
Where in Hillsboro are you?
I'm on Jarvis Road.
Okay, I'm in Lake Wawanoka. That is so funny. I had no idea.
Hey, I'm a proud graduate of Hillsboro High School, babe.
Really? Okay,
yeah.
So I did not grow up in Hillsboro. I grew up in St. Louis. I grew up in North County. And then from there, I went to St. Louis University, and I lived downtown, or lived like in the city for a long time. And what got me out there was a lake. Lake Wawanoka.
Yep.
Living on a lake, I thought, that sounds so cool to live on a lake.
Yeah.
And my daughter is 15, so we moved out there when she was 6 months old. And yeah, she's going to graduate from Hillsboro. But I have all kinds of friends. You probably know a bunch of my friends. Well, you probably don't, because now I'm like the old mom, right? Because most of my friends are like in their 30s and 40s over there.
Right.
Because they all have the kids that are like the old mom. But yeah, that is so funny. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you're right up the road.
Oh, that's hilarious. I had no idea you were in Hillsboro.
Well, the family farm that I'm on, where I was born and raised, has been in the family since 1859. So that's that's our weekend place, and we love it down there. And actually, I'm starting a business with my youngest son, which is going to be a hydroponic
how cool.
garden. facility. So we'll have to do another podcast once we get that up and going.
Absolutely.
On hydroponic
I think that is
gardening
so
and growing.
interesting, hydroponics.
It is. I think it'll be a good business.
So is he going to do the one with the fish? And the,
that's
like
aquaponics,
that
and you know what?
Aquaponics.
He actually his major in school was in the fishery and wildlife program, and so we intended to do an aquaponics facility, and we did some training in South Carolina at a facility, and we realized how complicated the whole fish plus hydroponics was at the same time.
It seems like it would be difficult.
It's very complex, and so what we decided to do is for phase one, we'll stick with the hydroponics, which he knows because he worked for a hydroponic greenhouse. They grew tomatoes in Illinois for a year. Mm-hmm. So we'll kind of start down that road, but then we'll work our way into the aquaponics side of the house at some point.
Oh, how cool.
It's on the grand scheme of things, but it's just not in phase one.
Oh my gosh, how fun. I love it. Oh, that's so funny.
Yep.
That is hilarious. And does Scott know that you live in Hillsborough? Because it seems like he would have told me. He must not know.
No, he doesn't. But you know, what's great is I'm right. I'm like 1 mile from Villa Antonio Winery, right?
Yeah.
So as the crow flies, you've got Villa Antonio just right over the hill from me.
So I'm like around the corner is that Sun. Oh, what is it? Sun. The.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. The other
new one.
winery.
And I kept watching that house for the longest time, thinking, what are they doing with that place? What are they doing? But really, Hillsborough is becoming, I mean, now that we've got the Russell House,
right.
So it's kind of like a place to go now to go visit wineries. And
so put me in a triangle right in the middle of that with a hydroponic garden on the weekends, and people can come tour the facility, and I really want to make it a facility that people do want to visit eventually after we get it going.
Are you guys going to like make yummy food and stuff?
Well, I do love to cook a little bit, and so
you like how we're starting Faith's whole other business right now.
Right, exactly.
And let's do this too.
We actually had a brainstorming session one day after work to come up with their logo and name and everything.
Oh, dang it, that's fun. And I already have questions for you. Now I want to ask this question. All right, you know what? Okay, so let me think, because everybody out there on Facebook, like, shh, don't tell anybody I told her this question ahead of time. But I think we should go there because it's so interesting. I mean, that's like a cool thing to talk about.
This is your time. You can talk to me about anything you want to talk to me about.
All right, Rich, we're ready to go. Well, I'm starting out. I've got other questions, but I'm going to start out with that question. I'm going to ask about hydroponics. Hydroponics. And we are back with Faith. Okay, but I have to be transparent. I can't lie. So usually I don't tell people the questions, but if you guys were watching us on Facebook Live, I learned of this awesome thing, so we have to talk about. Faith, what do you know about hydroponics?
Well, let's see. I'm so glad you asked me that question.
Surprise!
So, as if I didn't have enough to do in my current company, my younger son and I and my husband are all starting a hydroponics garden down in Hillsborough, Missouri.
I love it.
You know, hydroponics is a very sustainable growing method. You know, I grew up on a farm where we turned over dirt. Right. And we turned over a lot of dirt. And, right. You know, the problem with that growing method, albeit, you know, tons of people still use it today, it's just not sustainable for the long term. And as we go through climate change and things get hotter and colder and drier or wetter, you know, it's really hard for farmers to depend on that constant income from a revenue standpoint.
Right.
I mean, I remember as a little kid, you know, the income went up and down based on how much it rained that year.
In seasons.
Right,
exactly
in seasons.
Right.
And you just got to feel for farmers where sometimes there's an entire year their crops just get wiped out. So hydroponics is a way to grow vegetables very sustainably on a much smaller footprint.
That's what I was going to ask you. You can get a lot more in a smaller space.
That's right. You can get a lot more in. Theoretically, you can grow a butterhead lettuce head in 52 days at hydroponics. That would take much longer and a lot more water if you were doing it in the dirt.
Really?
So we're going to start our business with tomatoes and I think lettuce, and with about 10,000 square feet of greenhouse down there, and then we're going to expand out from there after we, you know, get a chance to really get our hands in there and get it dirty. But the name of the company, we do have it now. It's Heem Produce, Heem. And if you look at the meaning of heem, it's farm or earth.
Oh, really?
So earth produce,
Ooh,
right?
I love it. Even a new word I get to learn today.
It's a new word. That's right. Exactly.
That's the best.
Yeah.
So are you going to be at the Hillsboro Farmers Market on Wednesday?
Yeah.
Should I go there for my hydroponic tomatoes?
Exactly. Well, not yet, because we're just starting
No,
to build this thing.
I know, but I love it. I'll be keeping an eye out. I want to know more. That's
exactly.
Just, I'm fascinated with that.
Okay. Well, hopefully by next spring we'll be up and operating, and we'll be able to get back together, and I'll give you a check-in on how we're doing.
I would love it.
But
oh
it's
my
a
gosh.
whole new business, and I'm
How
really excited
fun.
about that.
I love learning about these things. Okay, so now my question is going to be about airlines, because you have a history with the airline industry. And with Ozark Airlines no longer around, do you have any treasures you kept from those days?
Oh, of course. Ozark Airlines was my very, very first job when I started in the industry. So I was working out at Lambert Airport, and they were getting ready to build Concourse D. So Concourse D didn't even exist back then. And we were getting ready to build Concourse D, and we were doing it for Ozark Airlines. And so then it wasn't too long into the project that TWA bought out Ozark Airlines. And so ultimately we finished the project for TWA. But both of those airlines, of course, are no longer in business.
Yeah.
I think my favorite memorabilia from TWA is I've got this wonderful picture of the L-1011 in the air. And the reason I love that picture is the company I was working for back then built the simulator facility for the L-1011 in St. Louis, and I got to fly the L-1011 simulator.
Cool.
And although I did crash it the first two times, oopsie, I did land it the third time, and Jim Eberhard, who ran that facility, God love Jim, gave me a picture, and he said, "You realize this is the best aircraft we ever flew." And that was back in the day when you flew from St. Louis to San Francisco or Seattle, and you got on that plane and you were in first class and you couldn't touch the seat in front of you, and they served you shrimp cocktail.
Are there L-1011s anymore, though?
Oh, no. Well, there are in cargo. They retired them all. They were gas hogs.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it wasn't a
Weirdly,
bad
that's
aircraft.
the only like airplane I would have been able to recognize in the sky, because it had that thing on the top of it. I grew up in North County, St. Louis, and so we were by the airport, and so my father worked for McDonnell Douglas, so we were obsessed with airplanes. It's like my dad would be like, "That's a blah blah blah, that's a blah blah blah," and the only one I would ever know, I'm like, "Thank goodness, it's an L-1011. I know what that is."
It's probably because you heard it as well, because they were quite loud when they took off. But
yeah,
I did manage to, come away with some of the little first class coffee cups and
cool.
a few
fun.
little things of memorabilia from those airline days. So I think us and anybody else that is listening to this that had the benefit of flying TWA out of St. Louis with 6 or 8 banks a day to every major city in the country really missed it when that all went away.
Oh yeah, when we weren't a hub airport anymore, it was very sad.
Yeah,
it's still sad because it takes forever to get anywhere now.
Well, and you can imagine the business impacts. I mean, think about all my people that fly all week, to different destinations, and now it takes them all day to get someplace where they could have worked 3/4 of a day, hopped a plane, and been in New York by dinner and still almost worked all day, right? Not anymore.
You have stops and layovers everywhere now.
Yep.
Oh, it really bums me out. So I'm going to stick with airline because we all know the joy of standing in those lines at security.
Oh, yes.
And so, but it is a pain. But tell us why it is so important. I mean, we know, but what should we be thinking about as we're standing in that security line?
Well, so many things cross my mind when you talk about that. But, I think the importance is that we have to make sure airlines have an obligation and airports have an obligation to make sure that the people traveling through their facility are safe.
Right.
Okay. And it'd be really nice to be able to just think about, well, we don't really have to screen anybody because I know who you are.
Right.
But look at the news this morning, just this morning, where this guy that has been in our military, fought in Iraq, did two tours of duty, I believe, over there. And they just arrested him as being an ISIS supporter.
Oh.
So here's a guy who's had every background check in the whole world, right? And he was radicalized somehow while he was in the military, likely. And thank God they caught him before he could do any harm to anybody. So you just cannot,
Right.
you just can't say, boy, I've known you all your life and you're okay, so just walk right through without screening.
Right.
I think what we have to do to improve screening is we have to get some of the equipment through the testing processes sooner. There are lots of equipment companies out there that have prototype equipment that just does not get pushed through the certification cycle fast enough. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, we have to have funding. There are unfunded mandates constantly coming down from the TSA for airports to improve security, yet there's no money that goes with that. How do we do that? Right? And number three, there's no space in airports to actually put the new equipment. When have you ever went through a security checkpoint and said, wow, this is luxurious. Look at all the space I have, right?
Exactly.
You're usually crammed in some little line, walking through a space that's about 2 feet wide to try to get to where you're going.
Trying to get your shoes off, trying to get,
Right. So to deploy new technology and to improve the whole process for our passengers, all of that has to come together. We have to have funding, we have to have technology, and we have to have space to deploy the type of equipment that would make our process better. And I think, we have to focus on that. And I know a lot of focus goes into the airlines refusing to allow us to add like $1 tax to everybody's ticket to pay for those changes because they say, well, it's all these taxes that you keep adding to our tickets. But I don't know too many people out there that wouldn't add $1 to their ticket if they knew it's improved the process or they made it more, easier to use.
Right.
So I think the problem is you only hear the bad things about those kinds of things and the lobbyist groups for the airlines saying they don't want to add it. But I think people really need to know what the real truth is there. And part of some of the stuff that we do in our government groups is we work on issues like that.
Right. Thank you. Because it is important. I think about that when I'm standing in that line. As much as I don't like standing in that line, I'm like, but there is a reason. They're not just trying to annoy us.
Right.
There's an actual really good reason for us to be standing in this line.
There is. There's many reasons. Many of which I can't talk about, but many reasons.
Okay, we won't talk about this. We don't want to get you in trouble. We'll stick with hydroponics. No. Well, thank you so much. I so appreciate your time being here and learning about you. This is fascinating.
All right. Well, I really appreciate coming, and I'd love to come back sometime and give you an update.
We're going to talk
me anytime.
hydroponics, yeah.
Exactly. Call me next year.
Bring in the whole family. We got room now in the studio. Look at this.
Exactly. I'll bring some lettuce and tomatoes for everybody here.
Oh, yeah. Definitely you're here. Well, thank you so much, Faith. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Alrighty.
Thank you. And all of you out there, you have been listening to Mishmash. Please go to iTunes and subscribe. We'll catch you next time. Yay! Thank you.
You're welcome. That was fun.
Fascinating. I love when I find out really interesting things about people too, and you're like, oh, and by the way, I'm going to do hydroponics. Because I don't run into people often that start talking about hydroponics.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well, what was funny is yesterday morning I had a similar experience. So this gal that Lindsay, who works runs a company by the name of Hera, their laboratory consulting company. Anyway, we're sitting there talking, and she's got ice in her hand because she got stung by a bee in her backyard. And she said, yeah, I'm a novice beekeeper. And I said, oh, that's a lot of fun, And she said, and she kept talking about her mentor. And I said, well, I understand about bees because we have bees down at our house in the country. And I said, one of our old Boy Scout leaders, Lauren Grossman, is the guy that keeps the bees. He asked us years ago, can I put bees down at your farmhouse? And I said, absolutely, you can put bees down there.
Yeah.
Love them. And she looks at me, she says, Lauren Grossman is my mentor. So how little of a world is that,
I saw something
right?
the other day, though, about how you take a block of wood and you drill the holes in it and then put it in the little house thing for the bees. And I was like, wouldn't that be a good idea for all of us to do? Because the bees are super important. We know that.
Yep.
But yeah. Oh, cool. Well, awesome. I'm going to bye, guys. See you next time.